What is it about the night shift that feels so wrong? You'd think fewer people, fewer distractions, and less noise would make things peaceful. But peace isn't what you feel. The hallways stretch a little too long. The air hums a little too heavy. And even the smallest sound, the tick of a clock, the buzz of a light feels like it doesn't belong. And sometimes, the quiet doesn't just make you uncomfortable. Sometimes it makes you notice things. Things you can't explain. Things you wish you never saw. These are 3 terrifying true night shift horror stories. Story 1. The Repeat Customer. I used to work nights at a gas station just outside a small town. It wasn't one of those big chain stores with cameras on every inch of the ceiling. It was old, half-renovated, with peeling paint, flickering lights, and one of those buzzing refrigerators that always seemed louder when the place was empty. Most nights were boring. I'd sip on burnt coffee, scroll on my phone, and count down the hours until daylight. But one night, something happened that made me question everything I knew about reality. It was just past midnight when a man walked in. Average guy, mid-40s, South, jeans, a worn jacket. He didn't look at me, didn't speak much. Just picked up a bottle of water, placed it on the counter, handed me a crumpled bill, and left. Nothing unusual. Until about 10 minutes later, when the bell above the door rang again. Same man, same bottle of water, same blank expression. I laughed to myself, thinking maybe I was tired and imagining things. But no, he bought it again, handed me another crumpled bill, and walked out the door 10 minutes past. The bell rang again, and there he was. Same man, same water. No words, no eye contact. Just the transaction, and gone. By the 4th time, my skin was crawling. Something wasn't right. His movements were identical every single time, like he was following a script. The way he reached for his wallet, the way his head tilted slightly down it, was exactly the same. I finally glanced at the security monitor, expecting to see him walking back to his car and pulling out again. But what I saw made my stomach drop. On the footage, the man walked up to the counter, but then never walked out. He didn't exit the door, he just disappeared, gone. Yet 10 minutes later, the bell above the door would chime again, and he'd be standing there, water bottle in hand. I wanted to run, to lock the doors, but my body wouldn't move. The 5th time he came in, he finally looked at me. Not a long look, just a flick of his eyes, like he knew I'd noticed. And then he smiled. That was the last time he showed up. The next morning, I checked the security tapes. Each time, he was there at the counter. But in the reflection of the glass door behind him, there was nothing, just me. Standing alone. Story 2. The ghost in the hospitals are eerie enough during the day. But at night, they're different. The lights hum, the air smells faintly of antiseptic and something metallic, and every step you take echoes down hallways that feel way too empty. I was a nurse on the night shift, working in a wing that was usually quiet. Around 3 in the morning, I was making my rounds when I saw her at the very end of the hallway. An elderly woman sat slouched in a chair against the wall. Her gown looked faded, her skin pale, and her hands rested limply in her lap. I assumed she was a confused patient who had wandered out of her room. That happened sometimes. I called out to her, "Ma'am, let's get you back to bed." She didn't respond. I walked toward her, clipboard in hand. But the second I looked down to check the room number just for a second, she was gone. The chair was empty. The hallway stretched silent in both directions. No doors had opened, no footsteps, no sound at all. I searched every room nearby, but nothing. Everyone was accounted for. When I mentioned it to another nurse, she gave me this tired look and said, "Oh, you saw her, didn't you?" I asked what she meant, and she just shrugged. "Don't worry. She doesn't bother anyone. She's just..." Here later, I learnt the truth. Years ago, a patient had died in that very hallway. She'd collapsed on the way back to her room, and when staff reached her, it was too late. The description matched exactly who I'd seen. And from that night on, every time I walked past that hallway, I swore I felt someone watching. Sometimes, out of the corner of my eye, I'd catch the faintest shape of someone sitting there, always silent, always waiting. Story 3. The voice on the radio security guard jobs sound boring, but the night shift in an empty building can mess with your head. The silence isn't normal. Silence, it's heavy. You start hearing things that aren't there. But one night, what I heard was there. My partner and I were working in a downtown office building. It was just past 2 a.m. when my walkie-talkie crackled with static. That wasn't unusual, but then I heard it, a child's voice, faint but clear. It whispered, "Help me." I froze. I pressed the button, called to my partner, "Did you just say something?" He said no. His channel was quiet. Then the static returned, and the voice came again, louder this time. "Help me." I swept the flashlight across the hallway. Nothing. No movement. No sound. Just that heavy, pressing silence. I told myself it was interference. Maybe another channel bleeding through. But then the voice whispered again. And this time, it said, "I'm behind you." My blood ran cold. I spun around, shining the light in every direction. Empty. Just the hall stretching out. Shadows clinging too tight to the corners. The voice didn't come back. But I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The next morning, I asked my partner again if he'd said anything. He swore he hadn't even touched his radio. We checked the logs, nothing had transmitted at all. So who or what had spoken to me that night? The night shift is long, quiet, and lonely. But maybe it's not the kind of loneliness we think. Maybe it's the kind where something else is keeping you company, something you don't want to see. Which story unsettled you the most? The man who never left, the ghostly patient, or the child's voice on the radio? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories that keep you up at night, don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the other chilling tales linked in the description. Because when you're working the night shift, you never really know who or what is sharing it with you.